Hello everyone, Dr. Stephen Schimpf, and I'm gonna get to you today because I'm gonna say the following. Trust no one. Yeah, you heard me right. Trust no one. What's that mean? You can't depend on anybody being infection-free. Doesn't matter who they are. Right now, people are pretty much following the basics. Wear a mask, social distance, avoid areas where it's crowded, avoid areas where there's limited airflow, and of course, keep your hands clean. Those 5 things are critical, but there's 2 more. And that is, if you go visit somebody, doesn't matter who they are, you gotta wear your mask, you gotta keep a distance. If they come visit you, same thing. They have to wear a mask, you have to wear a mask, and keep a distance. My wife and I live at a place called Charlestown. It's a retirement community of about 2,000 people, and 1,800 of us live in what's called independent living. And we're a variety of ages and a variety of health situations, but here it's really all about living. We've got 6 restaurants, we have 2 gyms, one a beautiful Olympic-sized pool, we have a medical clinic on site, and a pharmacy on site. We've got multiple venues for sitting around, for lectures, for discussion groups, for game playing. We have a beautiful gallery where residents can hang their paintings. So we have a community that really comes together. We're pretty much self-sufficient in many ways here. So as the pandemic started getting closer, the management here really went into action, and they've done a great job of keeping the virus out. So here's what they did. They prevented a lot of visitors from coming in. They closed the 6 restaurants and instead brought us meals right to our door. Instead of us picking up, they brought us Federal Express and UPS packages right to our door. In a sense, we didn't have to leave our apartments, but many of us did, just to go outside, get a breath of fresh air, walk a little bit, good for both the body and the brain, or the soul. So it was working. We went through the end of March, all of April, all of May, all of June, beginning of July. By the way, we're taping this on the last day of July. No infections in independent living. But now, just the last few weeks, 5 people have developed infection. They've tested positive. How did that happen? Well, it happened because they went off campus. Not that that's bad, but they visited a friend or a relative that they were just certain couldn't be infected. People that they knew really, really well. That's my friend. He couldn't be infected. I know him. He doesn't go bar hopping at night. He's my friend or my relative. Well, it turned out the friend, in fact, or the relative, in fact, was infected, didn't know it. Because remember, more than 50% of people that develop this or get this infection never have any symptoms. But we know that just breathing out and speaking lets out this aerosol. If you want to get an idea of what that aerosol looks like, hold a mirror underneath your nose. And you'll see a fine mist right there. Well, that's what's moving out. Now we're outside. The air moves it nicely. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have a mask on. When we're inside, that can just sort of float around. And in a small confined space, it can float and float and float. So the point is that fine aerosol is out there. It doesn't fall to the ground rapidly like a cough. Those droplets fall to the ground pretty rapidly. And you can breathe it in. And if you breathe it in, it can come right into your lungs because it's so fine. It comes through your nose, through your mouth, right down inside. Well, that's the problem. You have to assume that whoever you come in contact with might be infected. So let's just go through it again. If I'm going to go visit somebody, I have to wear my mask, I have to keep a social distance. The person I'm going to go visit also has to wear their mask, keep it, and agree to keep a social distance from me, 6 feet. Now what if they just don't buy into that? Then my obligation to myself is to say, I'm sorry, I can't visit. oh, just stay. We can go outside and sit around out there. No, we can sit around outside, but with a mask and at a distance. No, I don't like that. Well, then, excuse me. I love you. I'd like to spend time with you, but I can't. It's for your benefit and my benefit, and I'm leaving. Same thing if somebody comes to visit me. Find out in advance, actually, are you comfortable when you come in to wear your mask and keep a distance? Because that's got to be your rule in your house. Nobody comes in without their mask on and keeping a distance from you. And again, just because your friend, somebody you know well, that you trust, well, I hate to use the word trust. I did use it in the beginning. But you got to be cautious. And since I mentioned cautious, there's a real phenomenon. And we've been going through this for months now. We're getting tired, we're fatigued. Actually, there's kind of like an anger in there, because you can't see, there's no end in sight. That leads to a syndrome called caution fatigue. Caution fatigue. And what that means is we're just not as careful as we were before. Well, we were doing a good job before, and we kind of let things up a little bit. And we can't do that. So we have to recognize our caution fatigue, try and deal with it, and keep doing what I'm suggesting. Now, our grandson lives in Los Angeles. He's graduated from high school. He's going to start college in the fall, actually in a couple of weeks. And he's going to come to St. John's College, which is less than an hour from here. We've been very excited about that. We would get to go see him once in a while. We haven't seen him in California since last September. So we were quite excited about that. Well, here he is. Let's just say he comes to visit us here. I'm too close. But I just want to point out that he has his mask on. And he can't come in without that mask on. So we can't sit out here without that mask on, and we got to keep the 6 feet. So I'm using him because I know that family. We Zoom with them every weekend. We know they've been following the rules there perfectly. Absolutely ideally. But nevertheless, we have to assume that he might be infected. He has to assume that we might be infected. So for his protection and our protection, got to follow. So that's it. It's basic. I really want to encourage it. And yes, you don't like to say to somebody you know well, look, we got to wear a mask. But we do. And think of it this way. It's not being, you're looking out for yourself, and you should, because you got to protect your health. But you're also looking out for the other person. You want to protect their health in case I'm the one who's infected, or you're the one who's infected. So that's my message. I know I started out with trust no one. I want to go back to that term. I wanted to get your attention. So I'm pretty sure I did, but I hope in the process you've gotten to see the point, the message, that it's so, so important. You know, if we work on it together, we can lick this thing. But we got to do it together. Everybody has to follow. And it just won't work for this person over here not to, or that person over there not to. Got to do it together. We're a community here, of course, but we're a larger community, a national community, a world community. And if we just follow these things, we can make a big difference. Thank you.